Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Bridges of Belief. I'm Puyo, hey daddy Shohi. I'm joined by
Jessica Santos, a cult. What do I look?
And Kevin Porridge.
yeah, so many cameras, right? We're back at the studio with the awesome Nick. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you, Nick.
Yeah, it's such a great setup. I love that. This is really cool. So, have you ever met someone who just makes things happen no matter the obstacle? Someone who happens to life rather than letting life happen to them. In today's episode, we're driving into a concept that George Mack, who also inspired this episode, once called
Thanks, George.
possibly, thank you, George, yeah, possibly the most important idea of the 21st century. What is that idea? It's high agency. So what is high agency? To paraphrase George Mack, again, it's kind of like pornography. You can't quite define it, but you know it when you see it. But that being said, yeah. But that being said, it doesn't mean we're not going to try. We're not going to try. So strap in as we explore what high agency actually is, what it looks like in real life and in the Bible, because it's there. Yeah, it's getting juicy.
You're so smart, boy.
Oh, stuffy. Oh, please keep going. The role God plays in cultivating it, and how you can start embodying high agency in your life. So, my friends, I'm going to throw it over to you. When you hear, and some of you have done your homework, but when you hear high agency, what comes to mind?
Okay. I think your title really says it best, but I think it's someone who's able to handle obstacles. It reminds me of that movie, The Martian, if you guys have watched it.
I haven't seen it, don't spoil it.
Okay. But basically, he gets trapped on a planet by himself and he needs to find a way to survive. And you watch all the strategic things that he does to survive and you think to yourself, man, if this guy was put anywhere, in any situation, he will figure it out.
Is this Matt Damon?
Yes.
Oh, that one. Yes, I have.
You've
seen
watched
that.
it?
I have seen that a while back.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think, Jess, that's The Martian is the perfect example of what I call his high agency. Someone is able to make do with the cards that they're dealt in order to get the goals that they need to get.
Castaway's a bit like that with Tom Hanks. Hey.
Haven't seen that
That's
even, no
another-
spoilers.
Tom Hanks. Oh my god.
I love Tom Hanks.
Classic Poya, come on. You're a movie buff.
Castaway was like 2003.
I know, I'll get that. I haven't seen Titanic either.
What?
I know.
You gotta be joking.
And I'm a
me.
romantic too. I'd
you're a
probably
movie
love
buff,
it.
aren't you?
Yeah, I've seen Gladiator.
Oh.
That has to count for something.
Yeah, that's a high agency.
That's a
movie
high.
as
That is a
well.
high agency.
That's a high
movie.
agency movie. Yeah.
That is a high agency movie.
Yeah. I feel like we're going to go on a tangent of listing all the high agency movies that we know in our brains.
I'm happy to do
Have
that.
you ever watched Limitless, Jess?
Limitless. Is it the one about the drug?
Yes.
Yes, I have.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
yes,
high. But
yes.
why is it high agency?
I would call that movie almost like porn for me. Like just the idea of he says this thing where
You can't define it, but you know it when
Like
you see
high
it.
agency porn.
and he
Yeah.
says this thing and he goes just like, what is this drug? There's a moment where he takes it, it's like a smart drug, and he says, what is this drug? I'm not high, I'm not wired, I just know exactly what I want to do and exactly how to do it.
It's a drug that gives you high agency in a flash,
yes.
isn't it?
I
Yes.
don't know if I agree that it gives you high agency.
Okay.
I think that you have to still, because I think people know what they have to do, but they don't do it. I think high agency people will actually do the thing. I think it's proactivity,
Bias towards action.
bias towards action. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, for our listeners, please go into the characteristics of someone with high agency.
Okay. Whoa. Well, why don't we jump into the next section, which is defining?
Oh, I'm
Let's
so
define-
sorry.
Oh, no, that's all right.
No.
Just before we
Jess, you're all right. You're all right. I like this. See, no. I'm saying that's good. But that was a transition. That wasn't like okay. Let's just. No, I was like, no, you're cool. We're collaborating. We're all collaborating. You guys are welcome to interest.
can I ask you,
Yeah,
Poya,
go.
what made you pick this topic?
Okay. I'm gonna be very honest. I've been feeling very. Okay, so when I was 25, I became really driven. And I remember when I was 26, I was like on fire, like a super into self-development, probably the best shape of my life, like so much self-belief and confidence in myself and in God. And then something happened. I just like slowly petered off. I put on weight. I kind of just lost sight of my goals and my dreams. And I got close to kind of getting back to that same level I was at when I was 26. But yeah, I couldn't get there. And I think recently I've had a very doom and gloom view of life, which is what I had before that kind of like
Peak.
not even peak, like that breakthrough I had when I was 26 really. And so recently I actually took up 75 hard, the challenge, to get back to basics, fix the hardware to fix the software. So fix my body so I can fix my mind.
Wow.
And I've got that fire back. And I'm like, I'm in situations now where I'm like, oh, I can do this. If I want this, I just do X, Y, Z. While before I'm like, oh, but what if it doesn't work? Or if I do this, I'm like, so that's why I think this is important, because I think there's so many issues that people go through that are actually solvable problems.
Yeah, amen to that.
Yeah, and I think we live in a world that's so just like pessimistic and cynical, and we don't think that we can actually make the changes we want in our lives, and that means that because of that we don't take responsibility. And I think Christians have, not all of them, but I think some definitely have a limited view of what God can do in our lives. And also, I think this is a spectrum. I think you have Christians like, I grew up in a Sydney Anglican circles and conservative evangelical churches, and I think they have a very, like, in my perception, almost cynical view of what God can do in our lives. Like, oh, like, I want to get my dream job, but that probably won't happen. So, I'm not going to, like,
I'm just gonna
pray
aim
for
lower.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah, aim lower. Exactly. Well, I think Pentecostals and charismatics on the other end have probably this, like, high view of what God can do and and belief, but no action, no proactivity. So I think, like, a lot of conservative evangelicals are more drawn to proactivity and self-reliance. Opposite. That's just a generalization. Obviously, there's nuances to that, but I think that's why it's an important topic to me, because I think if we can understand what high agency is and how to actually live that out, I think a lot of people are going to have much better lives. I think a lot of Christians are going to be able to, like, use the gifts that God has given them to build the kingdom.
Yeah.
And I have a real passion to see people be the best version of themselves. And I think we all three of us share that.
Yeah.
So
would that mean that the definition of high agency is basically the best version of ourselves? Is that one way of putting it?
that's the outcome.
Right.
But I think high agency. So this is kind of like how George Mack. This is to quote him again. I'm going to be quoting him a bit throughout this because it's really his idea. And maybe we can put a link here to his video, to his essay. He wrote a really good essay on it. So George Mack says, this is what he says about high agency. High agency people don't accept the hand they've been dealt. They figure out how to get a better one. High agency people don't accept the circumstances they are given. They defy the false rules of the game without defying the actual rules. So that would be the laws of physics, legality, and morality. So essentially, I think what he's saying here is that people who are high agency, they don't just blindly accept the way things are. They have a bias towards action. They're proactive. And if you've read, I'm reading the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Yeah. And the first chapter, the first habit is proactivity. It's a bias towards taking action. And so regardless of what situation you're in, what context you're in, what constraints are on you, if you're not breaking the law, if you're not breaking the laws of physics or morality, you can solve that problem. Yeah. And I actually have a view of this on the housing crisis, which, like, Kevin, I don't know if you're open to sharing about your situation, but, like, for me, I work for a charity, so I'm not, like, raking it in. Yet I've broken into the property market. And I have to say first, I'm very blessed. I was able to live with my parents and save money. They didn't charge me rent. But the sacrifices I made, like, I didn't travel. I saved up for a deposit. And then I bought an investment property that so far, God willing, will continue to do so, has done really well, which is going to enable me to build a property portfolio and build wealth, right? And even if I wanted to, like, I was going to buy an apartment originally in Sydney. Instead of doing that, bought a house. I got a buyer's agent. That's the path I took. I could buy the same apartment now, but I also own a house. If I bought the apartment first, couldn't buy the house, right? Yeah. And so I hear people talk about the housing crisis. And look, I'm very blessed. I work an office job. I get paid really well. I was able to live with my parents. I acknowledge that. So I don't want to pretend that it's, like, this amazing, like, obviously, like, all by the grace of God. But I like to think that I had a lot of high agency in that situation where I did my research. I looked at my options. I was initially averse to buying an investment property, did the research, prayed about it, took the risk after doing my due diligence, and it's paid off so far. Yeah. And so when I hear people say, "Oh, it's really hard to buy a house and stuff," or whatever, and then they're buying, like, these crappy apartments in Sydney for twice as much as I paid for my house, I'm like, or just a lack of, like, trying to like save money and they're spending money on drinking every weekend or eating out. Like I know there was that politician said, "Oh, these millennials eating avocado on toast." And I don't fully agree, but I also kind of get that too. And I'm not even a conservative. Like I'm pretty like left leaning, but I also like I think there's something to that. So I think that's just an example of I don't know. I can't remember what the question was. I felt like I just went on a whole
The
monologue.
characteristics of high agency.
Yeah,
And then,
I have a feeling
And
that
why you
I
chose
kind of
topic.
know. I kind of
Yeah.
know where you were potentially going with what Jack Henderson said and stuff like that.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't fully.
So let's chat about that. What's
Okay,
your thoughts
go.
on that? What's your thoughts on that?
Would you want to explain to the audience?
Yeah. So basically, let's actually watch it. We can do one of those things where we can do that.
Can we actually put it on?
Yeah.
Jack, you didn't vote in the last election. Why was that?
I don't really have a political view, to be honest. Someone who's super self-responsible, so if it's my life, it's up to me. And I drive past, there's massive lines, and I'm like...
The line's too long?
Yeah, essentially. Like, yeah.
So you copped the fine?
Yeah, I think so.
Will you be voting this time?
Probably not, no.
So you feel like policies sort of don't affect you in that sense?
I can have a bigger impact on my life than any government will ever have. So I have this belief that if people spend as much time on their own lives as they do worrying about everyone else's and who can make an impact, then they probably have a much more successful life, and that's the belief I carry.
You run a buyer's agency which has a financing arm. You also own a building company. Yep. What about those of us who don't, say, have all that insider knowledge that you have and industry connections to sort of help create that wealth?
Just as I did, you can go and learn. You know, I didn't start with that. I grew up in a normal household. Mum and Dad grew up in a housing commission in Mount Druitt and grew up in Wilberforce, which is a normal suburb, grew up in a normal household, and I was taught to work hard, and if you want something, it's yours to go and get, so go and get it. So, you know, like I said, I started as a labourer in construction, then learnt all of the stuff that I wanted to learn. Lots of people choose to spend their time watching TV and, you know, playing around TV, but like to things that may or may not have a huge impact on their life, and I don't choose to do that stuff. So
let's discuss that because that went pretty viral. That clip, and that caused a lot of controversy because people were like, he's being really insensitive, he's being really rude, he doesn't understand. And so me and you, we were kind of discussing that. What's your thoughts, Poya?
Okay, so on a philosophical level, I agree with him in regard to taking full responsibility of your life. I agree that, yeah, as you said, he came from Mount Druitt. That's not a particularly nice area in Sydney. And he worked hard and he did the education and learnt. So I 100% agree with that. I don't agree with his notion of not being politically involved because he doesn't need the government, like he doesn't need to rely on the government for his life. Because I think those are two separate things. I think politics is a matter of morality. Because politics shapes the way our country is run. And I think as Christians especially, we have a duty to have a part in shaping our society into one that is in line with what God wants. And so regardless of whether you're more left-leaning like me or more right-leaning like I guess you two are, like I think we're both coming from the place of we want to see God's will done on earth.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think every person has a micro responsibility. I think Jack is very big on that. And then I think Americans really take this to the extreme level, but too many civil liberties, as my favorite comedian Ronnie Chang says, too many civil liberties and too much of a high value on freedom. You know, I guess in the extreme feminism way, it would be renting out wombs for a baby or like, you know, using surrogates, which I really don't agree with on a moral level. But you also have a macro responsibility to your country and to your, like, just to your community. Yeah. And I think he's avoiding the macro responsibility of voting, which I don't think is mature. I'm going to call it maybe macro immaturity, if that's even a thing.
I like that.
Interesting.
And I think given his success, he was able to cop the fine with it not really having a patch on him financially, which, you know, I respect your freedom, buddy, but like in your agency, that's fine. Yeah. But yeah, macro immaturity, that's what I'm going to call it.
Fair enough. Yeah. No, I agree with that. And I actually probably agree with both of you. Yeah. One thing I say that's really, really important is there's two different frames. One is about what's right and what's wrong, and one is about what works and what doesn't. So it depends on what you're optimizing for. This guy probably doesn't really care that much about the morality. He cares about, hey, what's my goal? I want to live a life of freedom, like what you said.
Yeah.
That helps him meet his goal. He's not concerned with the morality. But now, if you want to bring in the Christian perspective, I do agree with you, Poya. And me and you are kind of, we're going back and forth in this, but I do agree. Like, as a Christian, I do think it's important for us to have a macro responsibility. But at the end of the day, we can't blame Jack Henderson because that dude, he's optimizing for financial success. That's what he gets. So it's out of the question.
You reap what you sow, baby.
Yeah, you reap what you sow. And it's genuinely like comparing apples and oranges. You just can't do it. So that's my perspective.
Yeah. I mean, with all due respect to Jack Henderson, I think he has a lot of influence. And I think that I hope that he can have a different view for the next election and use that to encourage people to vote.
Also, when was that clip filmed?
Insight.
When?
About 6 months ago, I think.
6 months
Was it
ago.
6 months ago?
Given the political landscape, I am very surprised that he feels that way. It would make sense in 2023 or earlier than that. But wow, I'm surprised.
So
it was
that
6 months ago.
conversation was from the whole housing crisis type of thing and how intense it was getting, and that's part of what was brought in. So for him to say that at that time with a lot of emotionally charged people, it's like, can you imagine how much controversy it caused?
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. Stakes are higher.
Yeah, actually, I love that you said that because that ties into the next thing I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
That I didn't even realize there was a link. The next thing I think what will be interesting to look at is how do we contrasting high agency versus low agency. And there was something that you said just there that I think is
Emotionally charged.
Emotionally charged.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is a symbol of low agency?
Because if you're emotionally charged, you only see one side of the picture. And you will only be tending to see one side of the picture, and therefore you'll be more so a victim, and you'll be more so saying, oh, everything is all bad, no good. And every time that you look at a situation and non-objectively and you look at one side, not the other, it forces you to hesitate and to not take action. It forces you to be low agency.
Do you think you can... Oh.
No, you go.
Do you think you can be emotionally charged and still be high agency? Do you think that the emotional charge can drive you to be proactive?
Depends on your age and maturity level, I would say, and experience. Sorry, go on.
No. Actually, that's a really good angle. So go into that a bit more.
Just from a brain-based perspective, if you think of little children, like my 3-year-old, he would only be high agency in the lived experience that he has. So, for example, my husband has a medical condition. When my husband falls, he has the agency to go ask for help or know to get a pillow just because he's seen it before. But most children, if you've never seen someone have a seizure before, you would have no idea what to do. From a brain-based perspective, you would be operating from your amygdala, like from your emotional brain, and not your frontal lobe. Like this is Dan Siegel's hand model of the brain. This is the amygdala, where memory, emotion, fear, fight, flight, freeze exists, and then the frontal lobe, which doesn't mature until age 25. So, I think. If you're emotionally charged, you're thinking from your child brain.
Yeah.
You can't have. You're limited to how much agency you can have.
You do.
From a brain-based perspective.
When we're there, we basically delete, distort, and generalize information. All men are bad. All women are like this. All everyone who got their financial, everyone who's rich are bad. So we just go into all ways and others, black and whites, and then we have stories, and then we limit ourselves.
Yeah.
But boy, where I think you're going is that there's also there's different types of emotions as well. So there's also low agency emotions, but there's also high agency emotions like gratitude and inspiration.
Ooh.
Right? So that's where it gets different as well.
I think anger is both a high agency and low agency emotion, and this is why.
Okay.
Think of the civil rights movement. I mean, there's a lot of anger. I mean, Martin Luther King is a very well composed man, very well spoken, but I think there was some anger at the injustice in America. I don't, I can't speak on Malcolm X. I'm actually not super familiar, so I won't go into that. But it seems like he played a massive role as well, and he was full of anger. Nelson Mandela. This is a weird transition. On the more evil side of things, terrorists, very high agency. Osama bin Laden.
Yep, high agency.
That's where it's used for evil.
So you can be high agency and also evil as well. That's what we're.
I think so, and I think anger can really drive you to take action. There's Patrick Beck-David actually talks a lot about this. Are you guys familiar with
I love
Patrick?
Big D.
Yeah,
Love
one of
Big
my
D.
Persian brother, Salam.
Nice Persian,
Oh, he's
hectic.
Persian too.
Yeah, he's Armenian Assyrian, but grew up in Iran, so he's one of my people.
Yeah,
Look, come on the show, please.
that must be why. Yeah,
Patrick June, come, Bjornjo, come to the show.
Azizan.
Aziza, oh,
My kids keep singing that. I keep
Bro,
singing that
I'm
song
so
to them.
glad, man. Us Persians, we're finally getting the
Yeah.
attention we deserve.
Yeah.
When are we getting our like big Hollywood movie? And that's Crazy Rich Asians and all that stuff. When are we getting like Crazy Rich Persians? Anyway,
I think it'll happen,
Yeah.
bro. It'll happen.
it'll happen. I'll make it.
Filthy
Hectic.
rich Persians.
Yeah.
Filthy rich Persians. Oh, you only drive BMV because Persians pronounce W as V. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, there was another example I had. We were talking about anger.
Oh
Yeah.
yes, terrorists. Yeah.
Terrorists.
Terrorists. I think even Patrick David talks about this idea of choosing your enemies wisely because your enemies drive you.
Interesting.
So I think anger can be both a low agency and high agency emotion because anger can either turn you like bitter, which prevents, even bitterness as well. I think anger can either prevent you from taking action and it drags you down, or it's like, I'm going to show them, I'm going to show all of them. I mean, have you seen that video of Obama roasting Trump at like this
No, I
gala
have
dinner?
not.
Yeah,
I need
yeah,
to check
yeah.
this out.
Some people reckon that's why Trump ran for president.
Yep.
It was like this revenge
Filled
thing.
him. Wow.
Yeah, he was like roasting Trump, and Trump's just there like, and I'm like, that could be something to it. I think even some of Kanye's recent antics, which we won't get into, is very much driven by this anger he has over like his divorce and other things like that. And he's actually a great example of a high agency person.
Actually, Poya,
probably
I agree with you when I'm thinking
Yeah.
about this. High agency can definitely come from anger because it can come. All those type of things are reactions, and then we create a part to help us solve the problem. Like David Goggins, he felt hurt.
David Goggins,
So he creates this character, this high agency character, in order to solve the problem. But really interestingly, people say that if you're coming from a place of hurt, then you're coming from a place of fear. And there's only two motivators. Either we're coming from a place of fear, what happens if I don't, or we're coming from a place of love. And that's the only two places you can ever come from.
I think fear is a powerful motivator.
It can be, but it's not the
crippling.
best.
It's not the best. It's not the best, but it's either crippling,
Yeah.
or I think it gives you the fuel. Because like if you're unemployed, you got to feed your kids. You'll either be super high agency.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or,
Yeah. I mean, remember in Dark Knight Rises, what does he say? Like to climb up the thing?
he has to fear death, right?
He has to fear death. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's definitely something there. My IFS therapist, she says to me, she goes, yeah, there is definitely. You can have the highest levels of performance from fear, from anger or whatever it is, but it's probably not it's not the best levels of performance. And I think if I am running a presentation and I'm coming from a place of like, this needs to be good or else, versus I love this and I love to serve these people and I'm having so much fun, there's always one that works better. But I think it also depends on the area. Because sometimes anger and stuff like that works in some environments, maybe like music, but in some environments it's very different. So I think it's a bit of a complex thing.
Can I just point something out? We're talking about both terrorists and presidents who both do good and bad having high agency, which then points out that having high agency alone is neither good nor bad. It just is.
Yeah.
It's like it's an instrument. It's a process. It's a tool.
Yeah.
Right. And I think like when I was watching the George Mack and Chris Williamson podcast, I just thought it's resourcefulness.
Yeah.
Like high agency is having the ultimate level of resourcefulness.
Yeah.
They also use the terms clear thinking, bias to action. What else?
That is the best
no
word.
No rumination or vagueness. Like just
Being
go
specific.
for it. Being a fast decision maker. Yeah, and I just thought, wow, I used to be so low agency. Like in my 20s, I used to.
How
be
did that
someone
change
who was
for you?
Very low agency.
Like, what was the journey of how you got there?
Thank you for asking me that question
Yeah.
because it's really making me go right into my hippocampus. Like, when did I become high agency? I don't know. I think when I went to Bible college and I became a dating coach. Like, I went to Bible college, had a crush on a guy that strung me along for 6 months. Some of you know the story, and then got my heart completely shattered into 1,000,000,000 pieces, and I just thought, this is never going to happen to me again. And then I became I became the coach. That's my villain origin
Yeah,
story.
that's the
No,
origin
that's your
story.
hero origin
My
story.
hero origin story, right.
You're using your powers for good, not for evil.
Absolutely. No, it's more fun to say villain origin story. There's a bit of a roll of the tongue. But my point being is that I felt empowered that what I felt from the soul, like right in my bones, could actually be useful and helpful to people.
Yeah.
I think that's what happened. And also, I took this job. Like I had a job that really made me feel like, wow, I suck at life, right? And then I took another job that I had a degree in, and I was like, oh, okay, fine, I fold, whatever. I'll just take this job that I don't even like, in an area I don't even like, and I don't believe in anymore. Anyway, and I just got promoted really quickly, and I was like, oh, how can everyone else not see the business side of what we're doing here? So I don't know, something just clicked for me where I was like, I don't know what happened.
It's almost like you, and I like this is definitely a pattern. You experience some sort of pain, so you create this part of you to find a way, or coping mechanism we can call it, to solve that problem, and you become more empowered. And I remember you telling us the story about how you learned, you read, you did information, you tried things, and then you became a lot more charismatic and a lot more socially adept and a lot more good with social dynamics.
Yeah.
So the pattern, I guess, is you experience pain and then you kind of find a way to compensate. And you can find a way to compensate in a negative way.
Yeah.
Or you can find a way to compensate in a positive way.
In a great and really useful way. There's something else that was on the tip of my brain while you were talking, and I've just lost it. No, it'll come to me.
It'll come to you. Yeah. Go for it, Poya.
Yeah. So I love all of that. I didn't. Yeah, that wasn't. That's an interesting thing. Like the relationship between morality and high agency, because it's separate. It's as you said. It's a tool. It's being resourceful. It doesn't. There's no moral. It can be used for good and for evil. Yeah. Yeah. I just want to go into some things that kind of help define high agency in contrast to low agency. So one of the common misconceptions is that agency equals control. It actually doesn't. Okay. Agency is about response. It's about how you respond to things. Okay. It's not about control. It's about focusing on your locus of control. Yeah. So it's a response. So I want to dive into some warning signs of low agency. Okay. What do you guys think? When you think low agency, what do you think?
Victim.
Yep, that's the first one I got.
Victim.
Yeah.
Just following the crowd, following the tide.
Letting conformity.
Life happen to you. Yeah. Yeah, as you say, letting life happen to you instead of happening to life. Conformity,
Yep. There's a really great model called To Me, By Me, and Through Me.
It's good.
And To Me is basically when things are happening to me, the boss did it to me, the ex did it to me. And you don't really get a lot of results in this place, and you're dealing with a lot of hidden shame, and you're being a victim about a lot of things. And then one day you just go, you know what? If it's to be, it's up to me. And you learn that you got to take responsibility and you got to stand up, and then you learn how to do things by me. And this is where the David Goggins, this is where the people learn this ability to be able to solve their own problem, and they feel really good there. But there is a downside. You eventually get burnt out if you stay at that energy. So there is a higher level, and the highest level is Through Me. And this is where it reminds me of Tony Robbins, when people ask him, how do you know what to say to the people when you're moving through the crowds? And he just goes, I don't know, it just comes through me. Right? So it's the trust. It's almost like it's the trust with the divine. And what's really interesting is to go from To Me to By Me, you need personal responsibility and you need the masculine energy. But then to get to By Me, to Through Me, you need to learn to let go. And this is why a lot of people who are super successful, they'll say things like, oh, you need to learn to appreciate things like family. You need to learn to appreciate, you need to look at the bigger picture. But they only got to that place after they did By Me. This is what pisses me off about it, right? They learned to get to By Me and be successful By Me because they learned to take personal responsibility, because they grinded with the masculine, right? But now they're at a different place, and now they start telling everybody, no, you got to learn to let go. No, it's not about working hard. It's not about this. And this is where people will say, I worked so hard in my, but I should have learned to. But you wouldn't have got those things if you didn't have the masculine
Yeah,
drive. You
that's
know what I
a-
mean?
Right.
And it
that's
gives
such a good
people the
point,
wrong
yeah.
message because people now start to think, oh, I need to learn to like let go and I need to learn to surrender without taking action. And the hippies are all happy, but the hippies are all unsuccessful.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And we
They
need to be able to we need to be able to merge the hippie and the executive together to be successful.
That's it. Well, I mean, that's what you get now. A lot of CEO. Yeah, let's just.
Amen.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Preach, brother.
Yeah, well, I mean, you get all these hippie CEOs now, right? Who are like into wellness and
Yeah.
they're like, oh, we're gonna do a meditation this morning, guys. No, that's actually a really good point. We'll dive into that later, actually, because that comes back later. But I love that paradigm of or that model rather of like to me, which is victimhood. That's low agency. By me, which is a form of high agency, and then through me, which is a whole nother level of high agency. But it's high agency.
Transcendent,
It's
yeah.
transcendent. Yeah. What are some other examples do you think of like low agency? Because I've got a few out here.
You know how I was saying I used to be low agency, and I'm
Yeah.
trying to think of, like, I remember being a young girl, like in my 20s, starting a new job, and I was just so afraid of effing it up. I was just so afraid that, like, oh, what if my colleagues don't like me? The boss thinks I'm incompetent. I better do everything, go with the crowd, just say things and make sure I laugh at the right time so people don't think that I'm socially weird. And it's just, I don't know. I think the low agency bit was really shrouded by the fear of doing something wrong, but like maybe just a lack of confidence that I wasn't enough, or like what I was bringing to the space wasn't enough. And then, I mean, Chris Williamson said this, and you were saying this as well, Kevin, but the grinding gives you evidence so that you can start flowing. So that the confidence can be
Wow,
real.
that's so true.
We were talking about that in the
Yes.
car
Yes.
on the way
It's
here.
so
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
And actually, I had so many revelations about masculine and feminine as you were talking, because actually I chat GPT'd what is a woman? You know, the Matt Walsh question. What is a woman? And it said an adult female who is, you know, is biologically able to create life in her body, but is relationally gifted, like more relationally gifted than the masculine, because women are more able to be comforters and nurturers and you know, help people relax and open up and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, but a woman can't do that if she doesn't accept herself.
Wow. Yeah.
And if she's not confident in her ability to do those things.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm still at the tip of the revelation. I think I need to think deeper about this, but yeah, that's where I'm at.
I feel like, you know, something that really comes into place, and you even see this in the to me, by me, through me model, is if discipline and surrender had sex, they would have a baby called Flow.
Ooh.
I've never heard that. I love that.
Yeah, because the grinding is the discipline.
Yeah.
And then the through me is the surrender.
Yeah.
And flow. Yeah.
And this is why if I'm doing sales and I'm going, I have to do this and I have to prepare and I need to prepare, but there's no surrender, I walk into the sales call and I'm scared and I'm crap and I'm like, I really need the sale and it's desperate and then they don't want me anymore. But if I come in just surrendering like, oh, I don't need any prep, then I'm not going to get the sale because I'm not prepared. But if I bring the discipline going, I know I've done everything I need to do, but then I also trust God or trust the higher power, whatever happens, happens. If not this person, I'll get the next one. And you bring those two together, then you become really, really successful.
Hey.
Right?
Yeah, because that's high agency. Because again, it's a response. It's
Yeah.
not about control.
Yeah.
You're just controlling. So if you respond in a way that's proactive, bias to action, I think that's what you get. You get flow.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, I have a question I really want to ask you, Jess.
Yeah.
I'm really curious how, and I don't know how much you can answer this, but just tell me what comes up for you. How do men and women view agency differently? I'm very interested. I'm very
Great
curious about
question.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to really feel into my body to answer that question. I think men view high agency because, I mean, Matt McDonald said to me, if a man loses his provider status, he loses all his self-esteem.
Wow. Yeah.
I'm sort of paraphrasing him. Sorry, Matt, if I'm, you know.
But that's
quoting
so
you wrongly,
true.
but
Yeah.
it is true.
Yeah.
So men are really, you know, deeply attached to their provider status. Whereas a woman would view high agency as, yes, resourcefulness, but knowing how best to influence a situation. And a woman can't best influence if she's not flowing and if she's in her masculine.
Right.
Yeah.
But if, for example, like, you know, you said a man loses agency, he kind of loses everything.
Yeah.
How does a woman feel about that? Is it like, oh, if I don't have the ability to succeed at this job, then like, is that like, is it similar to them?
I think because women are masculinized in the 21st century, then yes.
Yeah.
Women would, I felt the same way when I was in the workforce, for sure.
Yeah.
It's like a, I really need to come up with this, like a second steam train that a woman goes on. Like first she like proves her own competence to herself, and then she starts flowing. And then she's like, wait a sec, why was I grinding for years? It's not even good on my hormonal cycle. like I'm exhausted. And why?
Yeah.
Why am I doing this grind? It doesn't fit my feminine body at all.
Yeah.
I think, I guess the short way to answer the question is, men, it's about providing and competence and proving his competence. Because if he's not competent, he feels really embarrassed. Like the classic example of, hey, I need directions. I'm like, oh no, I can't find where this place is, but I'm not going to ask for help. You know, whereas a woman goes, I can't find where this place is. Oh, I wonder who I can ask, and you know, who I can influence to elicit the best answer.
Yeah. Okay, got you.
Ironically, that's a high agency response.
Yeah,
because you're being resourceful.
There you go. That's true.
Yeah. Nice. That's really interesting, because I've always wondered how women view the whole discipline, kind of like, you know, like agency type of thing, and that's really interesting. It depends on how they look. Absolutely, because like, I mean, there's the whole narrative of like, I mean, back in the day, it used to be like, you got to find a man who's going to help you be rich. Like, it's not you can do it by yourself.
Yeah,
it's like you got to find someone.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like
1950s Bettys were like, I want to be Howard's wife because Howard's on a track to becoming partner of the law firm.
There's
like a thing on this. Anyway,
Okay, so I have to ask you this as well, Jess. And boy, you tell me what you think here as well. It's like, so how do women view the man that's kind of like, from an agency perspective as well, who's kind of like like, even if he's failing at something, right? But he keeps trying and trying and trying and trying. It like, how does the woman view that? Like in a relationship, it's like, is it like, oh, it's not succeeding for him, like I'll give up on him, that type of thing? Or
I think it's more case by case. Like if he keeps wanting to be a jazz singer, but he's got a terrible voice, then why does he keep beating a dead horse? Like like, it's just a practical, like, I think it's a practical element of, well, does he actually have any real talent? And if she can see that, if she can have that belief in him, that genuine belief in him that's internal, then I think from an agency perspective she would respect that. But if she doesn't understand that, then I think it could be detrimental for their relationship, to be honest.
I mean, there's also an element of like pragmatism.
Oh yeah.
So for example, if you want to be an actor, but then you're married and you got kids, like there's a certain point where it's like, all right, you're gonna. Like,
that's right.
Yeah. So I think it's just a balance. I think it's just depending on what your responsibility. I think there's a ratio of responsibility and
the ratio
investment in pursuing your dream. So as long as the ratio is good, I think that's really. I think that's from
good.
a male perspective.
100%. I agree with that.
So like you're doing the podcast, right? That's outside of your business, but the ratio is good. Like you're bringing the money and all that. Cool. I want to outline some more warning signs of low agency before we move on. So I didn't think of that, but like lack of self-belief. That's a huge one. Didn't even have that listed, but that's huge. I think that's one I've struggled with as well, which is why I've been doing this challenge 75 hard. You build the evidence. I'm on.
Is this a gym thing, by the way?
Both. It's gym and self-development. So I got to read 10 pages every day of self-development.
Gosh.
1 45-minute workout outdoors, 1 45-minute workout indoors or outdoors. So there's 2 45-minute workouts.
Like
stick to a diet.
These things.
Oh wow.
Yeah, stick
Who
to
authored this?
Well, this is my version of it. I do my own version.
Oh yeah.
But like, there's like an app for it and stuff.
Oh, is there? I'm just using my own habit app. Then there's, you got to stick to a diet. No cheating from the diet.
Wow.
No alcohol. I don't drink anyway. That's fine.
Yeah.
Drink 3.8 liters of water. I have never felt this amazing in my life. I feel the best I've ever felt. My sleep has taken a hit because I'm trying to fit everything in, but I'm getting better at fitting everything in. I'm going to go gym after this tonight. because but that's the thing, because I'm building that
the front
evidence.
door. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
but I'm just doing mobility because it's a rest
Yeah.
day. But because I'm building that evidence, my self-belief has just skyrocketed.
Yeah.
And my sense of agency has improved. I'm in a situation now where I'm like, I need to do something, and I'm literally like, 2 weeks ago I would be like, now I'm like, oh, what I'll do, I'll message this person, then I'll message them, and then I'll send this thing through.
Yeah.
And then I'll call them and I'll ask them, what do I need to be successful in this?
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna reach out to different connections
So
I have. So yeah, I think when you build that evidence for yourself, that self-belief, you can lean more towards a high agency sort of, I guess, bias. But
I was going to say, this is one way of looking at it too, is like back in the day, people would rather fall on their sword and die rather than go back on their word.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But now we hand out a word like cheap candy, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and we look at a reel and think I'm going to do this, but we never do it. But it's like when a man and his word are like in line and they follow through on what they say and they're consistently doing that, and they have a very strong like connection to their word, anything that they want to do, they can do.
yeah, there's congruency.
Because they know now, they just got to name it. Oh, I'll do this. And if I've done all these things the last 100 days, I know I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
So I 100%, I can imagine how amazing that you'd be feeling like just doing that. You'd feel like you're on fire. You'd feel like you can do anything. And I think that for a man is that's why I'm very, very grateful in a way to be a man, because it's not an easy path, but it is a simple path. We have a simple path
Provide and
for,
No, but
way.
it is hard.
Yeah.
I have so many theories of why it is harder to be a man. But anyway, keep going. Yeah.
I think it's just hard.
Yeah.
I think it's just hard to be a human. But I like being a man. But that's because that's all I know.
I think it's harder to be a man.
We should. That'll be. I'm
That's
getting
a
to that
whole
topic.
episode.
I actually
You know
think it's
really
hard.
want to talk about that. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
interesting. I disagree, but I think.
You think it's harder to be a woman?
Yeah, I do. But it's funny that I'm the guy and I think it's harder to be a woman. But we'll get into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll just list out a few more. Blame shifting.
Yes.
That was one I did all the time.
That's good.
Waiting for permission. Again, I've struggled with that. That's something this challenge has been amazing for me. Chronic complaining.
I'm happy for you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm high agency now. I went to the cafe yesterday to prep for this. I wouldn't have done this 2 weeks ago. I love it. All right. So, we're almost towards the end.
Ooh.
So let's go into some. Oh,
I just want to add one more thing. Being a good soldier, I think, is low agency because you don't think for yourself.
Conformity,
There's no
yeah.
critical thinking.
Yeah.
You just go, yes sir, no sir, 3 bags full sir. You just Anyway,
great
keep
book
going.
about agency is 1984.
Yeah.
I recommend everyone read it.
I have read it and I cried. I was like, this is terrible. This
It's
is
so
bleak.
dark, but it's all about agency. It's about
Yeah.
taking agency back and what price are you willing to pay for that.
Yes.
It's a great book.
That tiny stuffy room. Anyway, I won't read
Yeah.
it.
Oh, it's so good. You would love it, Kev.
Right.
It's not inspirational, so maybe not actually.
There's a comic book version if you want to.
Okay, 1984.
Oh, we can watch the movie.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Yeah, there's a movie. I haven't seen it yet,
I've
so we
watched
can do
the
that.
stage play. I've read the book. Oh, never again.
If I ever
So
do
dark.
film, I would love to make a movie based on it.
Really?
Yeah, I have an idea of how I'd shoot. I shoot the whole last section in POV,
Oh wow.
just to like really make the audience uncomfortable.
Man,
Yeah.
wow. Anyway, keep
But
going.
anyway.
Yes.
So I think it'll be fun to go through each of us to share a biblical example of high agency,
Ooh.
but we'll make it a bit. Yeah. So would any of you like to go first?
Okay. Because I think before I speak usually, I'm just gonna say my 2 things that I say to myself often, or when I'm coaching, I often say, we have the mind of Christ. I always say that because we do have the mind of Christ. And the other thing I like to say is partnering with God.
Yeah.
Because, you know how I say to my girls, my coaching girls, life is a dance between making it happen and letting it happen.
Oh, such a good quote.
Because it's that whole discipline and surrender. It's that
Yeah.
dance between discipline and surrender. Because often, like, I think that's the same with looking for your dream job or looking for your perfect husband or wife. You can get on the apps, like swipe through many women and men a day, but it's at the end of the day, it's about the connection you have with another human being, and you can't really a lot of it is really serendipitous. So, in terms of the biblical example, it's like, I think God has, how George Mack was saying, as human animals, we're the only ones who have agencies. Chimps don't have the same agency as us. Birds don't. Fish don't. Like, humans do. And we're made in the image of God, and we are able to partner with him to bring heaven to earth. Yeah, that's what I want to say.
Love that. Kevin.
I think this is a tough one because there are so many high agency people in the Bible.
And Joseph.
Unbelievably
Joseph,
high agency
yeah.
people. Joseph is
He was
huge.
my first one. I
Yeah.
thought of, yeah.
Yeah, so many high agency.
Yeah.
Look, ultimately, the goat of high agency is Jesus Christ. And I think that if like, I think this is why Jordan Peterson always talks about Jesus Christ, because I think he looks at him as the ultimate archetype of what a man actually is.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
And I have to read this, right? I'm going to let you take your spot and I'm going to read this really unbelievably powerful thing.
Wait.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask a dumb question because I genuinely want to know the answer. It's a dumb, but it's a serious question. Give me an example of Jesus being high agency.
I'm going to find it for you.
I've
Give me a
got one.
second. I've got
Okay.
so many.
When he went to the temple as a kid to teach.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
In the yeah. It's in the bag. Yeah.
Paul, you keep going.
Awesome.
All right.
I'm going to pull this up. Yep.
Yeah.
I'm going to share this one. I think this one really stood out to me. Yeah. I think this is one of the best examples I can think of. It's the bleeding woman. And I think this is very practical. So this woman had been bleeding for 12 years and it seems like she tried everything. And at that time, in Jewish culture, it's unclean. She was unclean. So she was a pariah. She was outcasted. And what she does is so high agency. I love it. So she comes up behind Jesus in the crowd and so I'm going to quote the Bible. She came up behind Jesus in the crowd and touched his cloak because she thought, if I just touch his clothes, I will be healed.
Yeah.
She touches his clothes.
Yeah.
She's healed.
Yeah.
And he's
And it
like,
was
who
the
touched
hem.
me?
It was the hem.
It was the
as
hem.
well.
It was just a little tiny.
Yeah.
She reached out, touched it.
Yeah.
And she's like, who touched me? I felt power go from me.
Oh wow.
And she comes forward.
Yeah.
And this is why it's high agency. She knew who Jesus was. She knew she had power. He had power. So she knew that he could deliver. I think that's the most important. She didn't wait for permission. She went and did it. She took a risky, faith-filled step. Yeah, she believed healing was available and she reached for it. And how often, at least in my circles, do we become cynical about what God can do? We either become, as I said before, we're either super cynical or all the responsibilities on him, there's no action. It's either all faith, no action, all action, no faith. She was both.
Wow. Yeah.
Unbelievable. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that is such an unbelievable. And if you guys have ever watched it in Chosen, have you guys
I need
ever
to watch
watched
The Chosen. I haven't
need
watched
to
it
watch
yet.
that scene is
Yeah?
depicted so well because they tell the whole story about what is happening to her before.
Oh wow.
And I broke down in tears. You can't watch that and not break down in tears.
I can't
But
wait.
absolutely, and he turns around and he just goes, he basically says, "You are high agency."
Yeah.
Right?
Doesn't he say, daughter, your faith has healed you or something? I can't quite remember.
It's
It's been a
such
while
a
since I
literally
read
gives
it.
me goosebumps when I think about that scene, bro. Unbelievable.
Powerful. It's powerful.
Yeah, and that's
how we should be living.
Yeah, that's probably the greatest example of high agency is right there, right? Just going, I don't know, but I just got to touch him. That's it. That's all I need, right? Unbelievable. Look, I think one of the greatest examples of what high agency is yes, it's discipline, but it's also our ability to be able to walk through suffering.
Okay.
Yeah.
The
'Cause it's a
voluntary,
response.
it's a response. It's to walk through the fire to do the right thing.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And that's exactly what Jesus is. And if you think about, this is why Jordan Peterson says, out of all the histories and politics and media and religion, the greatest heroic story of all time is Jesus Christ. Because even when you watch Superman and Batman, the things that the directors will do is they'll make Superman, the ultimate thing he does is die in place of all humanity. It's almost like the directors, they have it written on their hearts that all humanity craves a God to die for us. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like it's written on their hearts. It's almost
Yeah.
like Jesus knows this, and this is the most powerful thing that really shows why he's the ultimate high agency. If you try to create a more heroic story than Jesus' story, you would always fall short because no stakes can be higher than the fate of all souls for all eternity. No villain can be greater than evil and suffering itself. No suffering can be worse than the physical, emotional, and spiritual agony combined. No sacrifice can be greater than God dying for his own creation. No act of love can be stronger than forgiving one's murderers, right? Father, forgive them for they know not what they do. Who can say something like that at that time? We don't even comprehend it, right? No comeback can be more profound than conquering death itself. Like all heroic movies, you're beating the bad guy, but who actually looks at evil in the face and actually faces it, right? And then no impact can be more lasting than shaping human history itself. This is why Jordan Peterson sees Jesus' story as the ultimate, unsurpassable, and most meaningful heroic narrative possible. It is the greatest story ever told, not just because it's profound, but because it's structurally impossible to improve upon. You can't even do it, even if you wanted to. And that's why he's the ultimate high agency. He looks at the evil, he knows the evil, and he stares right at it, and he walks into the fire.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Bro.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Go.
It's really Jesus taken on a new meaning for me, like really understanding him in this way. Like it really hits you how unbelievably goat he is. The goat of goats of goats of goats.
Bro, you've pumped my faith up, man. I was like, there's been a real shift in the last year.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're absolutely right. I mean, that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Well, I think to build off of that, let's get practical with this. So we're going to wrap up with this. This is the last part of this exploration. Let's go around. How about, what do you think are some practical ways to build high agency in our lives? High agency in a Christian sense. Faith-driven high agency. Because I think high agency by itself is not as effective.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think the ultimate way to build high agency in general is definitely transversable to the Bible as well, which is to become the master of meaning. Like the event is not what we react to. What we react to is the story that we say about the event. If I lost the job, person A can say that, oh my God, this is the worst thing that happened. I lost my job. I lost my livelihood. But person B can say, you know what, this is the greatest opportunity. It really gets me in a position where I can start to think about what I really want to do. And person B that tells a better story gets a better response. And I think one of the most powerful things that we can do is instead of trusting our own stories about ourselves, we trust God's story about what he says about us. Amen, right? Bro. That we like, if this situation happens, we're made in the image of God. Like Gideon is going, this is the story. This is what's happening. And God's going, trust my story. Samson is going, this is what's happening. And God's going, trust my story. Everyone who panics at every stage looks to God and God goes, trust my story. So if we learn to abandon our thoughts and our stories and trade it for God's story, that makes us high agency.
Wow. Yeah, I agree.
Wow.
I agree. I love that.
Yeah.
I'm still thinking. I can't top that.
Yeah, I can list a few while you think.
Yeah, let's do
go,
it.
Go.
So I got a few written down.
Okay.
So reframe constraints, which is kind of what you said. It's replacing I can't with how might I. And faith driven is bring God into that. So saying, God, I can't see how I can reframe these constraints. Give me wisdom. But I think that's part of it. I think you actually outlined a better way. It's reframing the story.
Yeah.
And trusting
it's a story.
God.
Yeah. Same thing. Yeah.
Asking better questions. So what would this look like if it were easy? Using inversion, think about what not to do. So let's say you want to change jobs. How would you not go about doing it? Say you want to find a romantic partner. How would you not go about doing it? And environment audit. Are you surrounded by high or low agency people? Now, I think this is a huge one. This has really shaped my life.
I agree with this.
Because I approach friendships in the sense of I have a Venn diagram in my head. So I have friends who I kind of feed into, like I support, friends who support me, and there's a bit of overlap. My best friends are in the overlap, like you, Kevin. Now, I'm really big on being friends who are outcasts and friends who like may not be at my level of success. But my anchors, I've really tried over the years to make them high agency people. So people like you, people like Ben, if you're listening, Timmy, who's probably the most high agency person I know, and Mitch, who's also my housemate, super high agency. That's a whole other story.
Boy, I forgot to ask you.
Yeah.
You haven't mentioned that powerful question.
All right, let's go. Do you have a practical step?
No, not yet.
No. You know the
I know the question.
Yeah.
To wrap up, I want all three of us.
Yep.
So let's just we'll summarize at the end actually. To wrap up, we got about 3 minutes left.
Yeah.
I want each of us going to answer this question. You're stuck in a third world prison.
Oh man.
Who do you ask to break you out? Let's go.
My husband, of course. No, literally, I would.
Yeah.
I would ask my husband. He's just so cool, calm, and collected. Knows how to problem solve. He finds it relaxing to think of like how can I save this business from drowning, or like he finds it relaxing to problem solve, something like that.
Nice. I would easily also choose Lisa. There's got to be something in that we both choose our partners, because Lisa is so unbelievably high agency. Probably one of the most high agency people I know is Lisa.
Amazing.
So high agency, unbelievable. But the only thing with Lisa, the downside with her, is she won't break the rules. So, but I've seen, I don't know. Maybe she's got a little bit of me in her, and maybe like for that reason she'll break it. But Lisa, very high agency. So that's who mine would be. What about you?
So I got two people in mind. My first one was Kevin.
Yeah.
I'm also going to say maybe Timmy. Because Timmy is probably the most high agency person I know. This guy, Timmy, he just goes for it. He works corporate.
Yeah.
But he also made a rap EP, which is incredible.
As you do.
Yeah.
And the shameful thing is, the sad thing is, he made it before Beyonce released Renaissance. Everything Beyonce did on Renaissance, he did. So if he releases it now, it looks like he was inspired by her. When really, it was just an example of parallel thinking. And he's like Beyonce's biggest fan. He's part of the Beehive. So that's like a huge compliment to him. He got me like really into Beyonce. I still need to listen to a new album. Haven't yet. But yeah, I'd go either you, Kevin.
Yeah.
I know you would probably you. Like you.
Thank you. I appreciate
Not just because
that.
you're a high agency, because you're loyal.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I would say there's one specific reason as well. I will bend the rules to get you out of prison.
Oh, I didn't even think of that, but yeah.
That's probably the main reason why. I will break all the rules. I will do it. Like, I will be willing to break the rules.
I would break the rules for you guys to break you out.
Okay, hectic. Thank you.
I will break the rules for certain things and certain people.
Thank you.
Yeah. But anyway,
and it's also that we can think creatively as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's
a high agency, because you have to say, how do I solve this problem? You're literally, it's lateral thinking, right?
Yeah.
You're thinking outside the box. You're thinking, your only constraint is, does this break the rule of physics? That is so freeing. So I think to wrap up, we're going to wrap up now. Just to wrap up, I'm going to list out all the practical things that we've said about what it means to be a high agency. So you guys can, try that at home. We are not responsible if you hurt yourself. But. So reframe constraints, rewrite your story. Yeah. Think about, replace I can't with how might I. Ask God for wisdom in that. Trust God in his story for you. Ask better questions. What would this look like if it were easy? Use inversion. Think about what not to do. List it out. List out exactly what not to do. And then boom, do the opposite. Environment audit. Are you surrounded by high or low agency people? You are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. That includes the voices you listen to, the podcasts you listen to. So if you have us in rotation, you're sweet. So make sure you do an audit of that.
Yeah.
And faith-based lens. Think about the parable of talents. Matthew 25:14-30. God gives us responsibility and he expects us to have faith plus action. And I want to end with this Dallas Willard quote. I found it online, might be out of context, but Dallas Willard, he's the GOAT, reading Hearing God at the moment, great book. Grace is not opposed to effort. It is opposed to earning. So, my friends, let's all have faith and action together.
Beautiful.
Yeah, all right. And was there anything else you guys want to add?
Okay, my things.
Yeah.
I think of it as a mother, because I'm always trying to teach
We got
my
one more minute.
3-year-old to problem solve. So if he's like, Mommy, all the letters are below the fridge. And I'm like, okay, we'll figure it out. What are you going to use to get all the letters out from under the fridge? Like there's letter magnets. Or, anyway. That's so just constant like problem solving. And making it fun, making it a fun thing.
Yeah, gamify. Yeah.
Okay, that's all I'm going to say. Yeah.
I love that. All right. We're going to wrap up with that. We're going to end with that. To our audience, thank you so much for tuning in. We love you, and we're going to catch you soon. We'll catch you in 2 weeks. Love you.